In the heart of a gritty metropolis, where the skyline sparkled with promise, but the streets echoed with unspoken tensions, Calvin Carter, a prominent entrepreneur, lived a life many envied. His high-rise apartment boasted floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a symbol of his success in the fast-paced tech industry. Yet behind the facade of wealth lay a troubled relationship with his much younger partner, Aaron Cole, a college student who struggled to find his footing in life. Calvin was known for his charm and intelligence, having built a lucrative startup that revolutionized mobile applications. He exuded confidence, always dressed in tailored suits and sporting the latest gadgets. But beneath his polished exterior, Calvin harbored secrets that would soon unravel in a shocking act of violence. Aaron, at 21, was fresh-faced and eager, a student studying sociology. His charismatic nature drew people to him, yet he often felt overshadowed by Calvin's larger-than-life personality. Their relationship had started innocently, with late-night conversations over glasses of wine that turned into heated kisses. For Aaron, being with Calvin meant entering a world of luxury, where he was whisked away to upscale restaurants and extravagant events. Yet as time passed, he began to feel the weight of Calvin's expectations. Calvin's desires often took a dark turn. He introduced Aaron to an array of unconventional sexual practices, pushing boundaries that made Aaron uncomfortable. What began as playful exploration soon morphed into a source of conflict. The age difference and power dynamics blurred the lines between consent and coercion. Aaron felt trapped, struggling to maintain a semblance of control over his life while succumbing to Calvin's increasingly demanding desires. One evening, after a lavish dinner at an exclusive restaurant, Calvin invited Aaron back to his apartment for what he claimed would be a special surprise. Excitement danced in Aaron's chest, but the thrill soon faded as Calvin's intentions became clearer. Calvin began to suggest that they explore a new dynamic, one that involved Aaron being bound in a particularly vulnerable position. "We're going to try something new tonight," Calvin announced, his voice smooth yet commanding. "Trust me, you'll love it." Aaron's heart raced with trepidation. "I don't know, Calvin. This feels a bit much," he hesitated. "Just relax. I promise you'll enjoy it once you let go," Calvin insisted, his tone leaving no room for discussion. As Aaron reluctantly agreed, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Calvin bound Aaron's wrists and ankles, positioning him in a way that left him feeling exposed and vulnerable. Panic coursed through Aaron's veins as Calvin's demeanor shifted from passionate to predatory. What began as a moment of intimacy quickly escalated into a nightmare. "Calvin, stop. This isn't what I signed up for," Aaron pleaded, his voice quivering. Calvin ignored him, lost in a frenzy of desire. The man who once felt like a protector now became a source of fear. Aaron's desperation turned to rage as Calvin continued to push boundaries, taunting him with every passing moment. "Just let go, Aaron." "Stop fighting me," Calvin said, his voice dripping with condescension. With every tug of the restraints, Aaron's sense of self slipped away, replaced by a primal instinct for survival. The ropes that bound him became a metaphor for the relationship itself, a web of control and manipulation that had ensnared him. The laughter that once filled their encounters faded, replaced by a suffocating silence that echoed through the room. In a moment of sheer desperation, Aaron snapped. He summoned every ounce of strength and rage within him, breaking free from the restraints. In his fury, he lunged at Calvin, their eyes locking in a moment that felt like eternity. Striking Calvin repeatedly, Aaron unleashed the pent-up frustration and fear that had built over months of emotional turmoil. "Stop! Get off me!" Calvin shouted, the surprise evident on his face. The tables had turned, and he found himself on the defensive for the first time. But Aaron was no longer the submissive partner he had transformed into a force of nature. The feeling of being controlled gave way to a surge of power as he pinned Calvin to the ground. The struggle that ensued was violent and chaotic, their bodies entangled in a brutal dance of life and death. Aaron's fingers wrapped around Calvin's neck, driven by a mixture of rage, fear, and the desperate need to reclaim his autonomy. Calvin's struggles weakened, his body growing limp beneath Aaron's grip. As he finally let go, staring at Calvin's lifeless form, the reality of what he had done crashed over him like a wave. The world spun, and for a moment, time stood still. The man who had once represented an escape from his mundane existence was now gone, and Aaron was left standing in the aftermath of a horrific crime. Panic set in. He frantically searched the apartment, grabbing whatever valuables he could find. In a haze, he collected Calvin's prized possessions, his sleek laptop, expensive watches, and the latest iPhone, anything that could provide a semblance of control in his spiraling reality. The thrill of the theft mingled with the terror of his actions, a chaotic blend of fear and adrenaline. Once he gathered the stolen items, Aaron slipped out of the apartment, leaving behind the remnants of a life shattered by a single night. He took Calvin's motorcycle, its powerful engine roaring to life as he sped away, adrenaline coursing through his veins. But the reality of what he had done loomed over him like a dark cloud. In the early hours of the morning, Calvin's co-workers began to worry. He was known for his punctuality and prompt communication, and when he failed to respond to messages, concern grew. A few colleagues decided to visit his apartment, their unease escalating as they discovered the door locked from the inside. "Something feels off," one of them murmured, ringing the doorbell repeatedly. No answer came. Alarmed, they called the police, who arrived swiftly. Officers forced their way inside, the eerie quiet engulfing them as they navigated through Calvin's lavish home. When they reached the bedroom, horror struck. Calvin lay on the floor, cold and lifeless, a victim of his own desires. The police secured the crime scene, collecting evidence. Calvin's naked body bore signs of a struggle, and the missing valuables pointed to robbery. A preliminary autopsy revealed the cause of death as strangulation, suggesting a sudden and violent confrontation. Detectives immediately began piecing together Calvin's life, exploring his personal relationships. Their investigation led them to Aaron, whose name surfaced during interviews. Friends recalled the young student's presence in Calvin's life, a seemingly perfect match turned sour. As the detectives delved deeper, they discovered Aaron's online activity. He had made several purchases with Calvin's stolen bank card, his spending habits painting a picture of someone trying to outrun their past. Surveillance footage from the neighborhood captured Aaron parking the motorcycle, further tightening the noose around his neck. When the police apprehended Aaron, he initially maintained his composure, denying any involvement in Calvin's death. However, as the detectives laid out the evidence, the facade began to crack. Under pressure, Aaron's resolve crumbled, and he confessed to the murder, recounting the harrowing night that led to the fatal confrontation. "I didn't mean to kill him," Aaron stammered, tears streaming down his face. "He pushed me too far." In court, the trial became a spectacle, drawing attention from the media and public. Aaron's defense claimed that he had acted in self-defense, trapped in a controlling relationship that spiraled into violence. They painted him as a victim of circumstance, manipulated by a man who used his wealth and power to dominate. However, the prosecution argued otherwise, presenting a case that emphasized Aaron's premeditated actions following the murder. They highlighted his immediate attempts to cover his tracks, including stealing Calvin's possessions and using his credit card. The jury wrestled with the conflicting narratives, the tension palpable as they deliberated. In the end, the verdict came down to a question of morality and intent. Despite the defense's attempts to frame Aaron as a victim, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder and robbery. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences that can arise from unchecked desire and control. As the gavel struck, sealing Aaron's fate, the courtroom fell silent, a collective breath held in the weight of the tragedy. Lives had been irrevocably altered, dreams extinguished in a whirlwind of violence. Calvin's death left an indelible mark on the community, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of glamour and ambition. And as Aaron was led away, shackled and broken, the echo of his screams mingled with the memories of a love that had turned fatal, forever marking him as a man who succumbed to the worst of human impulses.